making snares for wild fowl and kit foxes, and most tired of all of helping the women to chew seal and deer skins. That supples them as nothing else can, the long day through, while the men were out hunting. He wanted to go into the quaggy, the singing house, when the hunters gathered there for their mysteries, and the angekok, the sorcerer, frightened them into the most delightful fits after the lamps were put out, and you could hear the spirit of the reindeer stamping on the roof, and when a spear was thrust out into the open black night, it came back covered with hot blood. He wanted to throw his big boots into the net with the tired air of a head of the family, and to gamble with the hunters when they dropped in of an evening and played a sort of home-made roulette with a tin pot and nail. There were hundreds of things he wanted to do, but the grown men laughed at him and said, "Wait till you have been in the buckle, Kotuko. Hunting is not all catching." Now that his father had named a puppy for him, things looked brighter. An Inuit does not waste a good dog on his son till the boy knows something of dog driving, and Kotuko was more than sure that he knew more than everything. If the puppy had not had an iron constitution, he would have died from overstuffing and overhandling. Kotuko made him a tiny harness with a trace to it, and hauled him all over the floor, shouting, "Ai-oo, ja-oh, go to the right. Choi-ah-choi, ja-choi-oh-choi, go to the left. Oh-ha-ha, stop." The puppy did not like it at all, but being fished for in this way was pure happiness beside being put to the sleigh for the first time. He just sat down on the snow and played with a seal-hide trace that ran from his harness to the pitu, the big thong in the bows of the sleigh. Then the team started, and the puppy found the heavy 10-foot sleigh running up his back and dragging him along the snow, while Kotuko laughed till the tears ran down his face. Then followed days and days of the cruel whip that hisses like the wind over ice, and his companions all bit him because he did not know his work, and the harness chaffed him, and he was not allowed to sleep with Kotuko any more, but had to take the coldest place in the passage. It was a sad time for the puppy. The boy learned too as fast as a dog, though a dog's sleigh is a heart-breaking thing to manage. Each beast is harnessed, the weakest nearest the driver, by his own separate trace, which runs under his left foreleg to the main thong, where it is fastened by a sort of button and loop which can be slipped by a turn of the wrist, thus freeing one dog at a time. This is very necessary, because young dogs often get the trace between their hind legs, where it cuts to the bone, and they one and all will go visiting their friends as they run, jumping in and out among the traces. Then they fight, and the result is more mixed than a wet fishing line next morning. A great deal of trouble can be avoided by scientific use of the whip. Every Inuit boy prides himself as being a master of the long lash, but it is easy to flick at a mark on the ground, and difficult to lean forward and catch a shirking dog just behind the shoulders when the sleigh is going at full speed. If you call one dog's name for visiting and accidentally lash another, the two will fight it out at once, and stop all the others. Again, if you travel with a companion and begin to talk, or by yourself and sing, the dogs will halt, turn round, and sit down to hear what you have to say. Kotuko was run away from once or twice through forgetting to block the sleigh when he stopped, and he broke many lashings and ruined a few thongs before he could be trusted with a full team of 8 and the light sleigh. Then he felt himself a person of consequence, and on smooth black ice, with a bold heart and quick elbow, he smoked along over the levels as fast as a pack in full cry. He would go 10 miles to the seal holes, and when he was on the hunting grounds he would twitch a trace loose from the pitu and free the big black leader, who was the cleverest dog in the team. As soon as the dog had scented a breathing hole, Kotuko would reverse the sleigh, driving a couple of sawed-off antlers that stuck up like perambulator handles from the backrest deep into the snow, so that the team could not get away. Then he would crawl forward inch by inch and wait till the seal came up to breathe. Then he would stab down swiftly with his spear and running line, and presently would haul his seal up to the lip of the ice, while the black leader came up and helped to pull the carcass across the ice to the sleigh. This was the time when the harnessed dogs yelped and foamed with excitement, and Kotuko lay the long lash like a red-hot bar across all their faces, till the carcass froze stiff. Going home was the heavy work. The loaded sleigh had to be humoured among the rough ice, and the dogs sat down and looked hungrily at the seal instead of pulling. At last they would strike the well-worn sleigh road to the village, and Tudokaya along the ringing ice, heads down and tails up, while Kotuku struck up the Ankativo and Tainai Tainai Tana, the song of the returning hunter, and voices hailed him from house to house under all that dim, star-litten sky. When Kotuku the dog came to his full growth, he enjoyed himself too. He fought his way up the team steadily, fight after fight, till one fine evening, over their food, he tackled the big black leader. Kotuku the boy saw fair play, and made second dog of him, as they say. So he was promoted to the long thong of the leading dog, running 5 feet in advance of all others. It was his bounden duty to stop all fighting, in harness or out of it, and he wore a collar of copper wire, very thick and heavy. On special occasions he was fed with cooked food inside the house, and sometimes was allowed to sleep on the bench with Kotuku. He was a good seal dog, and would keep the musk ox at bay by running round him and snapping at his heels. He would even, and this for a sleigh dog is the last proof of bravery, he would even stand up to the gaunt Arctic wolf, whom all dogs of the north, as a rule, fear beyond anything that walks the snow. He and his master, they did not count the team of ordinary dogs as company, hunted together day after day and night after night. Fur-wrapped boy and savage, long-haired, narrow-eyed, white-fanged yellow brute. All an Inuit has to do is get food and skins for himself and his family. The women folk make the skins into clothing and occasionally help in trapping small game, but the bulk of the food, and they eat enormously, must be found by the men. If the supply fails, there is no one up there to buy or beg or borrow from. The people must die. An Inuit does not think of these chances until he was forced to. Kadlu, Kotuku, Amarak, and the boy baby who kicked about in Amarak's fur hood and chewed pieces of blubber all day, were as happy together as any family in the world. They came of a very gentle race. An Inuit seldom loses his temper and almost never strikes a child, who did not know exactly what telling a real lie meant, still less how to steal. They were content to spear their living out of the heart of the bitter, hopeless cold, to smile all his smiles and tell queer ghost and fairy tales of evenings, and eat till they could eat no more, and sing the endless women's song, Amna ya ya, Amna aya aya, Amna through the long lamp-lighted days as they mended their clothes and their hunting gear. But one terrible winter everything betrayed them. The Tananamiat returned from the yearly salmon fishing and made their houses on the early ice to the north of Bylot's Island, ready to go after the seal as soon as the sea froze. But it was an early and savage autumn. All through September there were continuous gales that broke up the smooth seal ice when it was only 4 or 5 feet thick, and forced it inland and piled a great barrier, some 20 miles broad, of lumped and ragged and needly ice, over which it was impossible to draw the dog sleighs. The edge of the floe off which the seal were used to fish in winter lay perhaps 20 miles beyond this barrier and out of reach of the Tananamiat. Even so, they might have managed to scrape through their winter on their stock of frozen salmon and stored blubber, and what the traps gave them. But in December one of their hunters came across a tupik, a skin tent, of 3 women and a girl nearly dead, whose men had come down from the far north and been crushed in their little skin hunting boats when they went out